Welcome to the Monthly Movie Dispatch, the movie review show from friends you can trust. Every week, we broadcast a review of a new film, talk about some film news, and recommend what to watch. We've been talking, critiquing, and gushing over movies since we were in high school, and we aim to bring you honest conversation on relevant cinema. I'm here with my brother Sean Bulby,
Hey.
and I'll be your host, Brandon Bulby, on this week's episode. We're going to be reviewing the blockbuster film No Time to Die, the new Daniel Craig James Bond film.
Mm-hmm.
In the meantime, I want to give some extra context around the movie so we can dig a little deeper. One thing that got me very excited about this movie from early on was the fact that Cary Fukunaga was directing this movie.
Mm-hmm.
I've been a big fan of his. I think most people are pretty much everybody was introduced to him in True Detective season one, which is kind of a big deal on HBO when it came out.
Yeah, definitely.
And that show really exploded. So he was the writer, director, creator of True Detective, just
Mm-hmm.
season one, and then he fully left the series.
Now, was
So
it
he's kind of
was
like
it
his
just
pet
him,
project.
or was it him and someone else, or was he?
Oh, no, see, now you're asking me
Yeah.
tough
Yeah. I mean,
questions.
I'm looking it up. Yeah. I don't know. Sorry, threw you under
It
the
was
bus
his
there.
project. He directed every single episode of that
Uh huh.
series. I'm sure
Yeah.
he had other people around and producers and stuff like that,
Mm-hmm.
obviously. But I loved that season. I loved that show. I loved what he did. He brought a super high level of skill to that show that you don't see much anywhere else.
Mm-hmm.
Had you seen True Detective?
Yeah, I wasn't. I watched it a few years later, or a couple years after
Okay.
it came out. But yeah, I totally agree. It's a pretty unique piece of television, and
Yeah.
definitely like has helped push that kind of TV forward. Kind
Yeah.
of definitely is a historically important show.
Yeah, I think it's kind of I mean, some other shows are definitely doing it around the time, but now I feel like every show is a limited series that keeps going on for season to season and
Yeah,
changing its storylines.
definitely.
Um, there's just so many shows that do that now, but I feel like that was kind of one of the first ones, like
Hmm.
7, 8 years ago, that did it.
Yeah.
Um, Another thing that I feel like is much less known, and it's the thing he did right after he left True Detective, um, was a Netflix film that he came out with called Beasts of No Nation. This was in 2015, like a year after True Detective came out.
Hmm.
Did you see this film?
I didn't, but
Okay.
it's like even to this day, I still think about it as a movie that
To
I
turn
need to
on.
watch. But yeah.
Um, it's a masterpiece. I think it was like my number five like best film of the year.
Hmm.
It's one of these films that are brutal, hard to watch. It's like um, to African warlord, drug smuggling,
Hmm.
child soldier, just very brutal um, visuals and story. But the way he puts it together, he brings his like top tier, film talent to that project
Hmm.
as well. And it's a remarkable film.
Yeah.
And it was very overlooked that year.
Hmm.
Maybe because it
Yeah.
was like an early Netflix like film,
Yeah. I feel like it definitely
again,
was
eight
like
years ago on Netflix.
an early like Netflix actually creating its own not content and not like
Exactly.
accumulating something, a movie,
Hmm.
or buying a movie to release on
Exactly.
Netflix. Yeah.
So I think back then it was, kind of it looked past like in the award seasons and stuff because it was like a year or two before streaming services were just the go-to for prestige dramas,
Hmm.
for prestige drama films at least. It
Yeah.
was maybe a year or two early on that
Hmm.
before everyone stopped caring and started treating them like every other production studio.
Yeah.
Um, Anyways, so Cary Fukunaga hasn't done too many things. He's done a few small stuff before that, but really, True Detective, Beast of No Nation, and then all of a sudden, 6 years later, he came out with his Bond film.
Hmm.
So they put a lot of stake in this director, but obviously he had shown his talent before.
Hmm.
Um, so that's why I was excited for it. How familiar are you with the Bond Daniel Craig series up till this point? Or which ones have you actually seen?
Honestly, like I've only seen four Bond films, maybe like five. I
Oh,
saw,
ever?
yeah, I saw,
Oh.
I have seen Doctor No, the first Bond film,
Mm-hmm.
and then I saw Goldeneye. I was,
Right. Everyone saw
yeah,
Goldeneye, I
I
feel like.
liked Goldeneye growing up. I probably saw one other um, Pierce Brosnan Double oh
Yeah.
007 movie. Uh, but yeah, then I saw Skyfall, and that is it. I didn't even see Casino Royale or the kind of last
I mean, the one that
second
came
Sam
out
Mendes
over
one.
after Goldeneye, where he's like, survives the nuclear explosion on a wave,
Oh yeah,
surfing.
yeah.
You
I've
probably
seen
saw it.
that.
That was
Yeah,
probably
I've
when
seen that
everyone's
clip, but
okay.
yeah. I may have seen
Um,
that movie. Like I have a vague memory of Denise Richards, but I don't remember if I actually watched the whole movie or if I just like caught parts
yeah.
on TV or
And how about Daniel Craig's series, which is
yeah.
kind of the continuity really just focuses on these runs of films.
Yeah,
But which ones have you seen?
I've only seen Skyfall.
Wow.
I didn't see Casino
Okay.
Royale or Spectre, which is probably the most important one,
Right.
predecessor to this, the new one, No Time to Die. But um, yeah,
Yeah. I mean, I've seen them all. Though I've kind of forgotten a little bit about Casino Royale and Quantum of Solace and stuff.
mm-hmm.
I saw Skyfall several times. Obviously, Sam Mendes and Roger Deakins shooting it,
Yeah,
like an incredible combo, and then that continuing on into Spectre not too long after.
mm-hmm.
But with Skyfall being an incredible movie, Spectre just like fell flat in so many ways. Just
Mm-hmm.
like drawn out, long, overstuffed, boring. As much as we don't like saying that word,
Yeah,
it just got a bad rep for just being boring. It
uh
was kind
huh,
of a weird critique that you don't hear very often on these action movies.
yeah. That's
But
I mean
everyone turned against Spectre.
For a Bond movie, that it kind of makes sense.
Yeah,
Everyone's expecting action and yeah, uh,
yeah. People really turned on Sam
pacing
Mendes
and
and Daniel
yeah.
Craig after Spectre.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but so with I didn't realize you were so little of a Bond fan. But why were you excited for No Time to Die?
Yeah, I mean, I guess honestly, I wasn't like super excited. Definitely the trailer got me, and it worked for me. It made it look like it was going to, rather than just be another one-off Bond film, that it was going to pull from previous Bond movies and really
Yeah,
advance the story and advance the character.
and it was the
Um,
last one. That was kind of
yeah, honestly, I didn't
didn't
even
know
know
what they
that.
would do with that.
I
Okay.
honestly didn't even do enough research to know that it was going to be the last
Last Daniel Craig.
Daniel Craig one.
Mhm.
Um,
I guess we can get into that in more detail
mm,
throughout this review because that plays a bigger role. But let me kick this off officially. So obviously today we're reviewing the new Bond film No Time to Die, directed by Cary Fukunaga. It stars Daniel Craig, Rami Malek, and Leah Sedux, along
mm-hmm,
with a pretty awesome other cast, and we'll go through them in a second.
mm-hmm,
The plot description, yeah, it reads on IMDb: James Bond has left active service. His piece is short lived, with Felix Leiter, an old friend from the CIA, turns up asking for help, leading Bond onto a trail of mysterious villain armed with dangerous new technology. All right, that's like super vague. Villain with
mm-hmm.
dangerous technology is like the plot description for every Bond film ever.
Yeah.
But um, so first impressions. How did? Oh, actually, okay. There's more stuff I want to set up here. We saw
Okay.
this movie together
Yeah.
in New York City,
Yep.
uh, in the really cool Lincoln Cinema
Lincoln
Art,
Square.
Lincoln Square Cinemas, in
Mm-hmm.
the what is it, RTX?
Dolby
Dolby
Atmos.
Atmos,
Yeah.
Dolby Atmos Theater, which is always a cool
Do you
place to
not
see a
see
movie.
Dolby Atmos very often?
It's just further away now,
Uh huh.
so I usually go to the closer AMC theaters,
Okay.
but it's definitely a treat to go there,
Yeah.
especially when it's all the same price, anyways.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's
Anyway,
not the
yeah, that
same
was fun.
for us. It's the same price.
Yeah, right.
It's
AMC A list.
yeah.
But yeah, it was cool going to see the movie together. We talked about it a little bit after, but I guess we didn't dig too deep into it because we wanted to save ourselves
Mm-hmm.
for this review.
Yep.
A crazy thing that this movie went through is its kind of series of postponements through the pandemic.
Hmm.
Um, this movie was supposed to come out at the end of 2019 to begin with, and I think it just got its normal first delay to pushed into early 2020. Um, and with that, in April, when it was supposed to come out, the pandemic hit. And it was one of the first movies to just like pull out and throw on a much later release date,
Mm-hmm.
which was originally supposed to be end of the year, 2020. Um, After that, obviously, we got towards the end of the year. Not much had changed. A few movies had tried to like come out, but it, you know, limited success. And so Bond again moved back nearly a full year later to where we are now to October or September 2021. October 2020 when it actually released.
Mm-hmm.
That is a massive
Yeah.
delay, like over a year and a half delay.
Yeah.
Um, It's really surprising. I mean, imagine sitting on this film for that long and just not being able to like
Yeah.
even see it.
Yeah. That's
A
crazy.
completed copy of this film. Uh,
Yeah. And it's crazy to think that there's more movies that still need to come out, like Top Gun
Dune,
Maverick and
Top
Dune.
Gun, that
Top
were in a
Gun,
similar
which
situation.
was one of the that was supposed to come out early. I don't know. I feel like early summer
It,
2020, and
these
it's
movies and especially Bond went through the cycle of showing us full like theatrical trailers for this and
mm-hmm,
me seeing them all the time to it just going absolutely silent for
mm-hmm,
the longest time.
yeah,
And then just coming out like almost without, I mean, I don't know, without an ad campaign. I feel like they so much money was spent on the ad campaign a year and a half ago for this film just
mm-hmm,
to have it, completely dropped.
yeah,
All right, so interesting backstory, and we'll see more similar movies like that throughout the rest of the year that are finally coming out. But
mm-hmm,
let's finally do first impressions.
yeah.
What do you think? How many stars? What are the
Oh,
goods and bads?
well, yeah. Maybe we'll save. I'll save my star rating, but I'll say generally, yeah, quite positive. I very much enjoyed the movie. I will say it reiterating that I didn't watch previous Bond movies, and I would actually kind of recommend, if you can, seeing Spectre. I feel like throughout this movie, I was a little bit behind. Not that I was missing things, or not that the movie was hard to follow in any way, but it just felt like at several points I was having to make assumptions
Mm-hmm.
that things happened in previous movies or were set
Yeah.
up in previous movies. Um,
And while you're
and
at it, might as well just see Skyfall first
yeah, definitely.
and lead your way up
Although
to it.
it seems like, yeah, I guess Spectre is less of a enjoyable watch than Skyfall, but I feel like very little was carried over from Skyfall as
Yeah,
opposed to,
probably.
it seemed like a
Probably.
lot was carried over from Spectre. Like Christoph Waltz is in this movie, and I
Hmm.
think the love interest from Spectre is that I think I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, I actually kind of don't remember, but I was
Yeah,
assuming so as well.
yeah.
Um,
But
but
yeah, but I don't necessarily think you need to watch it.
agreed.
And the movie really did work for me, even to the point where I feel like the whole intro to this movie does a really good job of setting up the relationship, the central relationship. Even though I still was wondering what exactly it was all about, uh, and how it got to that point from the first one. I thought they did
And
a
you're
good
talking
job of
about
setting that up.
the extended kind of long
Yeah.
cold opening to this
Hmm.
film, which I
Yeah.
agree was actually really great.
Hmm.
And when it finally hits the Bond intro
Yeah, and they do the
um,
song and
and the theme song, you're like, oh shit, like that was a great setup. They know what they're
uh-huh.
doing. And
Yeah.
even though it was like 25 minutes long
Yeah.
or like
Yeah.
whatever, it works. It
Hmm.
works really well. You get a whole like love interest setup, romance, full
Hmm.
on action sequence that goes on for a long time.
Yep.
Like all in just
big
this
car
intro.
chase, yeah, and
Yeah,
it
it's
just
got to be the
it keeps
longest cold opening in
and
Bond history.
and by the time it's over, that's the cool thing is that by the time it's over, you've completely forgotten that Bond movies do cold openings,
Yeah,
and then
and then it
well,
hits.
now we're kind of spoiling that, but you
Oh,
will forget when you watch it.
yeah,
I bet you'll forget, and then when it hits, you'll be surprised, and you'll remember this conversation.
exactly. So speaking of cold openings, what'd you think of the Billie Eilish song
Oh,
in
I
the
didn't know
credits?
that was Billie Eilish. Yeah, I
Yeah,
liked the song. That's awesome.
yeah, it was clean.
Yeah.
It was pretty, very pretty.
hmm There's a long
Um,
history of really good Bond intro songs. I just
yeah.
right before this the podcast, I was listening to "Live and Let Die" by
Hmm.
Paul McCartney, which
Okay.
is pretty
No,
cool.
nice.
uh, but yeah,
Oh wait, that is a Bond theme song.
yeah.
Oh shit. Okay. Um,
But yeah,
okay, yeah, it
I
was a
don't.
good pick.
Yeah, and it just like the movie kept going with being really good and interesting, and I felt like the movie was doing a lot of things with playing with your expectations of a Bond movie, and
Mhm.
playing with tropes of Bond movies, and playing with yeah, even what a Bond movie is, I guess. And there's a lot of really fun setups. I hope setups for future movies. I understand now that this is Daniel Craig's last movie, but I hope they keep going. And it would even be cool to see Cary Fukunaga. Oh God,
That could be cool,
I don't know if I said
actually.
that
If
right.
Cary Fukunaga
Yeah,
like was the connecting tissue between
yeah,
this and the
yeah,
next
definitely.
film, that would be a really good transition.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah, uh, eh, eh,
I
yeah. Go ahead.
I I liked this movie. I thought it was great. Cary Fukunaga brings like a level of talent to this Bond film that's very reminiscent of just like Skyfall and what Sam Mendes
Mm-hmm.
did to it. It pays off to hire these prestige directors to
Mm-hmm.
do action films sometimes, and
Yeah.
you see it in this movie just like you saw it in Skyfall.
Mm-hmm.
You're like, oh shit, this is what it's like for someone to try hard at
Yeah.
making a gorgeous film.
Yep.
Because there, yeah, he has his like eye all over this movie. It's just cool to see, and it keeps it interesting for anyone who's just interested in filmmaking. Just to see a level of talent. So
Um,
there's that.
yeah. I
But
just wanted before you move on. It was shot by Linus Sanjurin,
mhm.
who did like La La Land and First Man and American
Oh
Hustle, and
shit,
so
yeah,
yeah, really good cinematographer.
awesome. Yeah, those are great films
Yeah.
too. The movie is long, and like we mentioned with the cold open, it probably helps that it's like most of that length just comes from this long cold open anyways, so maybe like the rest of the movie is more of a normal 2 hour movie anyways, um if you subtract that 25-minute intro.
Mm-hmm.
But the movie's long, but I didn't feel it. Like I was kind of on board. The pacing works. I think it's a little convoluted with with the virus and the nanotech and the transferring of the microchip, or the USB drive.
Mm-hmm.
I think there's just like a little bit of um, I already said it, convolutedness in the middle of the script as you're
Mm-hmm.
kind of passing off between the Russian scientists and stuff like that. But it's pretty like minor
Yeah.
compared
I would
to a lot of just big action
honestly,
storylines.
I would say it feels convoluted, but not because the story is complex, really. Just
Mm.
because I don't really know. It just like a lot of things are kind of happening, but it also like if you just kind of strip away all of that, it's a pretty simple plot, and it's
I think
yeah,
because of the way it's written and directed, it's not like spelled out for you
yeah,
at every moment.
yeah. You don't have the
Things keep
villains
happening to the
bombarding.
scientist and to Daniel Craig, and you kind of have to just go along with the ride and figure it
Mm-hmm.
out as you're going.
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah, there's not like just endless exposition
Yeah.
of what exactly the like sinister plan is.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but you're right. I don't think it actually goes too deep, and there is just kind of like a simple thread to follow at the end of it.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I mean, I feel like it could have been cleaner. I don't know, like, or it is like a little dumb in the end of things, but like I'm saying, it's expected from a big action film
Mm-hmm.
that's having like world-ending stakes to kind of go through these nanobot stuff partway
Yeah.
through. But minor, minor
Yeah.
issue
I also have to
on what's
say,
a pretty good film.
I also have to say, the movie's about nanobot, like this nanobot technology, but I don't know why they had to be nanobots. I don't know why they
Yeah, it
couldn't
could have
just be
just been a
like a
virus.
virus.
Yeah,
Uh,
they
yeah,
added
I
on
don't know.
this like mechanical virus that they
Yeah,
developed with machines that could never leave a system, and like it was a little
yeah,
bit sci-fi without needing it to be.
yeah. Um,
That's true.
just because it seems like there's always a tendency to go for future nanobot technology, but I don't think that was important. Maybe,
Yeah, yeah, I agree. I agree.
yeah,
It's like you could have just said virus and it would have worked all the
mm-hmm.
same. All the
Yeah,
plot points would have been the exact same.
yeah. But yeah, I if since we're this is our little bit down on the movie section. I'll say the villain was a little uninteresting for me.
Rami
Um,
Malek.
Remy Malik. I thought he did
Mhm.
fine. But he kind of did the same kind of soft spoken type villain with a lot of drive as the last two I believe two movies, right? With Javier Bardem in Skyfall and Christoph Waltz in the last Inspector.
Mhm.
Both of them were kind of very soft spoken, not overtly violent, sadistic people, but like
Right, more
just
sadistic is a good
yeah,
word. Yeah.
they were just like very driven. They had a purpose. They knew what they were doing. They believed in what they were doing, and it's yeah. So I don't think he was doing anything particularly interesting or different from those. Especially there was even like kind of a slight messed up face thing with him and Javier Bardem that kind of linked those two roles. But
Yeah, they
yeah,
could go for something different. Why don't go for like a psycho murdering
yeah,
like evil villain
uh
who
huh,
I don't know
yeah,
does all the shit himself,
yeah.
or I don't know, like
Although that's a pretty Bondy tropey bit, a more soft spoken, like a twirl
mhm.
the mustache type villain
Yep.
rather than like a psychopath. But yeah, so maybe he left a little to be desired. Although I think he served his function pretty well as you know um, yeah, someone who was there as a hurdle that Bond has to you know
I
overcome. And
I mean, I've heard this critique a little bit that he was a little underwhelming. I don't necessarily know if I agree, but I don't disagree. Like, he's
mm,
actually, there's a pretty great cast here. I think he did fine.
mm-hmm,
There's other people I thought I really liked that are secondary characters. I
mm-hmm.
do wish maybe towards the end they had given him like actual more to do,
Yeah,
like as far as like what he was doing, where he was moving.
yeah,
I didn't need him to be like an action villain, but
yeah,
like he didn't have much agency in what you were seeing him actually do on screen,
yeah. Totally
um,
agree.
besides just a couple monologues and
Mm,
looking really scary with
yeah,
a girl in his arms and stuff.
yeah.
So it could have been more creative
Mm-hmm,
with that.
definitely. What did you think of the Bonds? Well, without getting into spoilers, the
Should we get into spoilers?
well, I don't know.
Let's talk
Yeah,
about. I
yeah,
want to talk about the cast.
yeah.
Um,
Cast was fantastic.
well, yeah, who
Uh,
were like actually I thought this is like a huge ensemble cast,
mm-hmm,
and I thought a lot of the characters were great. I mean, a lot of them are carried over.
mm-hmm,
Ben Wishaw, who's Q, I think always does a great job.
yeah,
He has a like interesting demeanor about him, and he's always great to like watch on screen.
mm-hmm,
Christoph Waltz is obviously like a tier actor.
yeah.
Um,
Yeah,
Ralph
Ralph
Fiennes.
Fiennes. Although it's hard to fill the role of Judi Dench from the previous from Skyfall and other. Actually, I believe she was even in some Pierce Brosnan ones as well.
Mhm.
Um, so she actually carried over from Pierce Brosnan era. But yeah, Ray
I thought
Fiennes is
Lashana
really good.
Lynch. I won't say too much about her,
Yeah,
but she was great. She was
yeah,
really strong and
yeah. I
believable, and a great
loved
actor.
absolutely loved the dynamic between her and Bond, them kind of
Yeah,
teasing each other, but also there's a bit of a rivalry there,
that
and
was pretty funny. It was
yeah,
pretty funny.
it was really good. It played well throughout the entire movie. Um,
You mentioned this earlier, and I don't see her name here on my list, but who was the like understudy
yeah, Anna de
agent?
Armas
Uh-huh.
as the I guess I think she was working with the American the CIA, and she teamed up with Bond for a scene or you know
And what movie
for a
was she
couple
from?
scenes, and she was I believe Marta in Knives Out.
Yeah,
The main she was the lead character in Knives Out, so it was cool to see her and Daniel Craig back together in a movie, palling around and
and
yeah,
she was great.
yeah,
Like
definitely,
I want to see more of her
yeah,
in the Bond series.
yeah. She had a
The way
great
it,
she had a great physicality, and she had a lot of sense of humor. She in this one she was played an up and coming kind of agent that
mhm.
yeah, kind of an understudy, and she was really fun and yeah,
Like
did
and like
really well.
Kelly said, the only disappointment is that we didn't
Yeah.
see more of her.
Mm-hmm.
Because she exits the film in a like funny way, but you just want more of her on screen.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, actually, really awesome cast all around, and I think that
Mm-hmm.
really helped this movie with how many players were around Daniel Craig, and
Yeah.
it helped the length because there's so many other interesting stories and people to look
Yeah.
at.
Definitely. There's so many fun characters for him to bounce off of, and I also wanted to shout out Jeffrey Wright, who is always good.
Yeah,
He's yeah, this
Westworld
yeah,
is the biggest thing
Westworld.
I
He's
know him
really
from, but
good.
he's in a
Yeah,
lot of
me
stuff.
too. Um, yeah, all that was really fun stuff, and yeah, very
Mhm.
much enjoyable.
So I think it's time we move into spoilers, go
Mm-hmm.
into a little bit more specifics on some plot before we wrap this up. So if you haven't seen this movie, and you should, stop listening now because we're going to go into spoiler section.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Shaun, you mentioned that they're trying to do something new in this Bond film. And
Mm-hmm.
I think a lot of that is like Fukunaga trying to, the director, trying to get more out of this movie than previous Bond films. I think from the get-go, just the continuity alone isn't something we're really used to.
Mm-hmm.
Like, there's a few recurring characters in Bond, but the plot being based around past films
Mm-hmm.
is already a new thing to begin with.
Yeah.
And I think kind of separates this movie apart from the get-go, along with a lot of other unique Bond tropes that they're throwing at you from the middle to the end.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the big spoiler, like Bond has never died before,
Yeah.
and he dies in this movie, and like I don't, we've had 30 Bond movies, and
Yeah.
they're throwing some really new stuff at us
They
here.
throw a curveball at us
Yeah.
at the end there.
I
Um,
know there was a lot of backstory in Skyfall, but I think this movie, like, they spend time giving you emotion and
mm-hmm.
connection to, um, to his family or to his girlfriend or
Mm-hmm.
his daughter, and they like actually make you care about some things in this
Yeah.
movie that you don't typically get from Bond films or summer blockbusters like this.
Yeah. Definitely. Um,
Um, yeah, what did you think about that?
yeah. Totally agree. I do think like Skyfall did a really good job at that as well. I think from what I remember, I've seen very few Bond movies, but from what I've heard, Skyfall did a lot to give Bond a lot more emotional stakes
Yeah,
and
his fan going to his
yeah,
past and stuff.
yeah, digging into his past and really giving him a character. outside of the typical Bond girl to really care about and fight for, which was pretty cool with that movie. But yeah, this one almost goes above and beyond that, or definitely goes above and beyond that, with giving him, the girl, I guess you would say, love of his life, and even though he has had that once or twice before, it seems like this one is, they spent a lot more time. Like that whole intro is all about their relationship, which was really clever. Rather than just setting up the typical, as they typically do, setting up the the plot of the movie.
And it very much like bookends this. Maybe not bookends, because it comes in maybe in the full last third, but like, and that's a little bit to be expected with how much setup they give her. But it's the emotional stakes come at the start and at the end, and give him meaning to his like whole life is what they're going for. It's a lot, and I think for the most part they did it pretty right.
Yeah, I totally agree. It definitely worked. It connected really emotionally for me, and the ending was climactic. It was worthy of a climactic Bond film for sure. Yeah.
Agreed.
It's it's really interesting what this movie did. I do think this movie was working on a lot of different levels, playing with the franchise. And we even talked after we got out of the movie about the kind of cheesy Bondy things. Like what were some of the jokes?
The one liner of like the guy's head exploding, or like,
oh yeah, which I forget what he said after that.
The cheesiest pun of all time.
Yeah. What did he say?
I'm not going to try to remember.
That one. There was a couple other ones that were just really good Bond moments, and I think what they were trying to do is they were like kind of reminding you of the history of this franchise, and how long has this thing been going on? Like 60 years at this point. And it has such a long history, and I thought it was really clever to bring up all that, to remind us of all that, and I don't know, I thought there was just a lot of ways that the movie was kind of hinting at the past of this franchise. Someone who knew what they were writing, and wanted to slip in those like deeper hints into the script. Yeah. And I did you see it coming? I kind of thought at some point that I wonder if they're gonna do it this time, because
I didn't see it coming. I mean, I would. No, I was not. There's no way to expect that. I mean, there's been 25 of these movies. Though when the machinery like failed after he got shot, and he had to go back.
Yeah.
I started thinking, and then I remembered that this is Daniel Craig's last movie, and I knew who was directing it. I was like, oh,
yeah,
he's might be setting this up to like push it this far. So maybe my mind was going there like 4 minutes before it happened, but other than that, no.
Yeah. And even like setting up, we talked about this again after the movie, maybe a possible new 007. I don't know if they've announced that yet.
I don't think they've announced it at all.
Yeah.
But
which maybe is because
with Lashana Lynch.
Yeah. Because
and maybe her understudy.
Yeah, that would be really cool, because like I feel like
awesome.
I don't know, Bond does Bond always have or not, maybe not always, but has kind of an American counterpart in a lot of his movies, and that would be really cool to see those two, palling around the world and in a new
with Fukunaga directing
movie.
it.
Yeah, definitely, that would be super fun.
That's the dream. I wanted to mention like actually kind of my biggest like negative with this, and I didn't want to pair it with our other things. So I didn't want the negative section to go on for too long, but
Mm-hmm.
I need to bring it up. I think this movie suffers a little bit from uncreative action.
Mm.
It's not to say there isn't like two or three scenes that worked pretty well amongst their action, but for a movie that's 2 hours and 40 minutes, that's a Bond film. I think they could have pushed it further and again been more creative with what they were putting on screen for these
Mm-hmm.
action sequences. And I think it's unfortunate that Mission Impossible obviously is taking it way further than what Bond is all about. Like
Mm-hmm.
it's not as cartoony as Mission Impossible, but even in some of the like the hand-to-hand combat scenes, even if you're not taking it to that extreme, like Mission Impossible just does everything so much better
Yeah.
um, as far as an action movie goes that this film, I think, failed a little bit on that front and could have used another scene or two of something that really dazzled you.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I will point out there was one scene that was actually really cool. It was the one where it was kind of a single take towards the end of Bond going up the stairs, and that was
Mm-hmm.
really cool. Not necessarily that the action that we were seeing was really cool, but the way it was shot and the way
The
that
explosion, the
yeah the
door, the
yeah
grenade,
definitely,
yeah.
and the way that the villains were coming at him, and yeah, it was just really intense and really well done. But outside of that, I totally agree. And it even a few parts seemed kind of awkward where it would almost just be Bond standing right out in the open in the middle, in the middle of a room, and like shoot that person, and then there's a few bullets almost hit him, and then turns around and
Yeah.
shoots that person, and then a few bullets, and it's just like these guys must be the worst shots on the planet Earth. They're like
Yeah,
unloading
jazz up this
clips at
choreography a
him.
bit.
Yeah.
Like
And
we
like,
don't need people standing in the middle of rooms shooting
yeah,
people anymore
that's
like that.
that's like kind of old school Bond,
Mm.
like Sean Connery just running through a room, kind of clunky, and with his Walter PPK, which I think is the Bond
Yeah,
pistol, and just pew pew and people as they're just
that's the
unloading
action
clips.
sequence you're
Yeah,
giving us, right?
and I mean, obviously this took it well above and beyond the Sean Connery action scenes, but it really did feel like there should have been in this modern era, taking cover and moving around, going from jumping from place to
Yeah.
place, and
And I
sneaking up
don't need
behind
anything
people
like
and things.
bombastic. I just
Mm.
need more
Yeah.
intricate ideas. Like for example, the really good idea in the opening when they're inside the car that's bulletproof
Mm-hmm.
and
Yeah.
the guy's like just shooting the window over and over again in the exact spot. And it's like it's not a crazy action scene,
Yeah.
but they had one idea that you'd never seen before,
Mm-hmm.
and it made it as intense as fuck to watch that scene.
Yeah, definitely.
Um, and to see that happen. So I just needed more of that.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't really a big negative on the movie. It could have been so much more of a positive if they
Mm-hmm.
had went.
Yeah, totally. And not that I was even really bored with any of the action. It's not
Yeah,
like it was it it's not like it was uncreative, or I guess it was kind of uncreative, but it was well shot, well done. It looked good. Like at no point did I think anything looked fake or
hmm.
subpar or anything. The money was up on the screen. I think I just looked it up. The budget of this movie was like
How much?
almost 300. What is it?
Whoa! Oh,
250 to 300 million.
no
Yeah.
way! This is the budget of like Avengers Endgame.
Yeah, I mean that's what
Holy
that's the kind of money you got to spend these days, I guess. But it's
wow!
made 320
Wow!
million dollars so far, so it's going to make some money for sure. It looks like.
Yeah. Reminds me of like the way we play Pinochle, where we just like
Hmm. Yeah.
keep outbidding, and it's either
Yeah.
like you make it or you go broke.
Yeah.
And everyone is
Yeah.
just going to that top level right now to where it's just
Yeah.
one or the other.
I mean, I guess like the last film of the Daniel Craig franchise, and possibly the last James Bond film ever made, or I don't know about ever made, but This could be the last James Bond film
Hmm.
ever. I don't know. Maybe they'll
Nah, we'll see.
maybe the kid's gonna be the little girl's gonna be a Bond.
There'll be another 007.
Yeah. Well, there's definitely gonna be another 007, but I'm
Yeah,
saying the last James Bond
yeah.
film. You know. Um, but yeah,
I think I think I'm pretty good on here. I'm gonna
yeah,
wrap this up unless you have anything more to add.
yeah.
Okay.
I think that's it.
Okay. So tune in next Tuesday at 8 p.m. and we'll be going over. I think likely we're gonna have Derek and Shaun going over the last duel, which
mhm.
we're all pretty excited to see.
Yeah,
If not,
Ridley
we might
Scott.
watch Halloween Kills, Lamb. We'll see, but it'll probably be the last duel,
There's
and
also
look forward to
Antlers. Is
everything.
Antlers coming out?
Possibly. And then towards the end of the month, we'll be doing a horror movie episode with reviewing some of the horror movies throughout the
Hmm.
October month.
There's
So
also
stay tuned to
Dune.
that. It's also, I
Dune.
mean, Dune's just going to be the
Dune.
week after what we're doing.
Yeah. Oh,
Oh.
wow.
Also, go see Cary Fukunawa's Beasts of No Nation and True Detective because they're all
Mm,
great.
yes.
Um, Thanks for tuning in. Have a good week. Talk to you soon.